At Wood Mahabat in Bangkok, people still bring gifts to a dead woman. They leave dresses, flowers, toys, cosmetics, food, garlands and offerings for May Nak of Phra Kanong, a young wife who, according to legend, died in childbirth while her husband was away from home. Some come to ask for luck. Some come for love. Some come because they are pregnant and want protection. And some come because, even now, generations after the story is said to have taken place, May Nak is not remembered only as a ghost to be feared, but as a woman whose love was so powerful, so desperate, and so unwilling to end, that death itself did not seem able to keep her away from the house by the canal. Because when her husband Mac finally returned, Nat was waiting for him. She was standing at the door, holding their baby, smiling as though nothing had happened.
Summer's a gift. The gift of days that last a little longer. A brighter state of mind. So gift yourself a new Kia at the Kia Summer Sticker Sales Event. With specially tagged vehicles including the Sorrento, Sportage, Carnival, as well as the Niro Hybrid. All backed by a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. So the gift of summer can keep on giving for summers to come. Kia, movement that inspires.
Call 800-333-4KIA for details. Always drive safely. Event ends 6/1/26. See dealer for warranty details.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make, being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on 2024 filings with state departments of insurance.
I like things my way. My coffee, my schedule, and my treatment. So I talked to my doctor about self-injecting with the Vyvgart Hytrulo pre-filled syringe, which contains efgartigimod alpha and hyaluronidase QVFC. It's injected under your skin, subcutaneously. It means I can inject in my space, on my time. It's my treatment, my way. Visit VyvgartMyWay.com. That's VYVGART MyWay.com. And talk to your doctor about Vyvgart Hytrulo. Brought to you by argenx.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make, being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on 2024 filings with state departments of insurance.
I like things my way. My coffee, my schedule, and my treatment. So I talked to my doctor about self-injecting with the Vyvgart Hytrulo pre-filled syringe, which contains efgartigimod alpha and hyaluronidase QVFC. It's injected under your skin, subcutaneously. It means I can inject in my space, on my time. It's my treatment, my way. Visit VyvgartMyWay.com. That's VYVGART MyWay.com. And talk to your doctor about Vyvgart Hytrulo. Brought to you by argenx.
Hello, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Toby.
And welcome to the Whispering Woods Haunted episode. In this episode, we are going to
Bangkok.
We are indeed, and this is a really interesting, sad, scary, creepy, everything story. I'll get straight into it. Are you ready for the story?
Yes, I am.
When Mac came home, his wife was waiting for him. After the noise and uncertainty of war, after the long absence, after all the days when he must have wondered whether he would ever see her face again, there she was, standing at the house that they shared near the canal. holding their baby as though no time had passed at all. To Mac, it must have looked like mercy. His wife Nat was alive. Their child was alive. The home he had left behind had not been taken from him. Whatever he had endured away from her, whatever fear he had carried back through the darkness, it was over now, because the person he loved most in the world was still there, waiting at the door. Around them, the village had gone quiet. Neighbours who should have been welcoming him back kept their distance. People lowered their voices when he passed. No one seemed willing to look too long at the woman inside the house, or at the child she held, or at the strange domestic peace that had settled over a place where peace should not have been possible. Because in Phra Kanong, the villagers knew something Mac did not. Nak had died while he was away, so had the baby. And yet, each evening, as the canal darkened and the house drew itself into shadow, Mac went home to the wife who smiled at him from the doorway, never understanding that the woman waiting inside was not supposed to be there. Long before Bangkok became the vast, restless city it is today, Phra Kanong was a quieter place shaped by waterways, wooden houses, temple bells, market life, and the slow movement of boats through narrow canals. It was the kind of place where the boundary between the living and the dead was not necessarily imagined as fixed, and where spirits were not treated only as stories, but as presences that could linger in houses, trees, shrines, roads, rivers, and thresholds. It's in this older Phra Kanong that one of Thailand's most famous ghost stories is said to begin. Her name was Nak. In many versions, she's called May Nak, meaning Mother Nak, or Nang Nak, Lady Nak. And though the details shift depending on who's telling the story, the heart of it remains the same. She was a young wife who lived near the Phra Kanong Canal with her husband Mac. They were not kings or nobles or people of great importance in the worldly sense. But that may be part of why the story has endured for so long, because at its centre is something ordinary and deeply human. A woman, a man, a child on the way, and a home they expected to share. Nak loved her husband, Mac loved her, and when the story begins, Nak is pregnant. That is the simplicity of it, and also the cruelty, because every later horror in the legend grows from that first domestic hope. The house by the canal should have been a place of return. It should have been where Mac came back to his wife, where their child was born, where the days resumed their rhythm after absence and fear. Instead, it became the place where love outlived the body and refused to let go. According to the best-known versions of the legend, Matt was called away while Nak was still carrying their child. Some versions say he was conscripted into military service. Others say he was sent to war. Either way, he left his pregnant wife behind, and for Nak, the waiting began. The story of Maynak is not frightening simply because she is a ghost. She is frightening because she is a wife waiting inside a home that has already become a tomb. She's not first imagined as a monster stalking the streets or an evil thing hunting strangers in the dark. She's imagined in the doorway, in the house near the cradle, still holding on to the life she was meant to have. That is what gives the story its sadness before the terror arrives. While Mac was away, Nak went into labour. The birth went wrong. In the older versions, there is no hospital. There is only a young woman in childbirth, a village around her, and the terrible knowledge that both mother and baby could be lost in the night. And that is what happens in this legend. Nak dies giving birth, and the child dies with her. The villagers know. They know that Mac's wife is gone. They know the baby did not survive. They know that the house by the canal should now be empty of everything except grief. But when Mac comes home, it is not empty. Nak is there. The baby is there. The house is warm with the shape of the life he wanted. And because grief has not touched him yet, because he has not stood beside her body or heard the truth from someone brave enough to say it plainly, Mac accepts what he sees. He returns to his wife. He holds his child. He enters the house, and the village watches. This is where the haunting really begins. The silence of neighbours who know something is wrong. The silence of people too frightened to intervene. The silence of a community that understands the dead have crossed back into the living world, but cannot yet bring itself to tear a husband away from the thing pretending to be his home. In some versions, villagers try to warn him. In others, they avoid the house altogether. Either way, the fear grows around Mac before it reaches him directly. People do not want to visit. They do not want to eat with him. They do not want to be near Nak, because whatever love she still has for her husband, she is no longer only a woman. She is something that has refused death. And in Thai ghost belief, that refusal can be dangerous. Mae Nak belongs to a wider tradition of spirits shaped by violent death. She is not a ghost who appears once and vanishes into a corridor. She is bound to the domestic world, to the husband she cannot release, to the baby she still carries in death, and to the house where ordinary life continues in a form that is no longer ordinary at all. In most versions of the story, Mac does not leave because he wants to. He's called away. Neighbours do try to tell him. They say Nak has died. They say the child is dead. They say he is living with a ghost. But Mac refuses to believe them, either because the idea is too cruel, or because Nak's presence is too convincing, or because the dead, in this story, can imitate life well enough to make the living doubt one another. She does not come to Mac as a distant figure in white, or a face at the window, or a shape glimpsed over the shoulder. She returns as domestic life itself. She cooks, she tends to the house, she holds the baby. She behaves like a wife who has waited patiently for her husband, and now only wants the life they were promised. But the village knows, and because the village knows, ordinary things begin to feel wrong. The neighbours will not come too close to the house. A conversation stops too quickly. People keep their children away. A glance moves from Mac to Nak, and then quickly down again, because nobody wants to meet the eyes of a woman they have already buried. Around the house by the canal, fear gathers quietly, not as sudden panic, but as a shared knowledge that no one can safely speak. The longer Mac stays with Nak, the more dangerous that silence becomes. Because in ghost stories like this, love is not always gentle. Sometimes love becomes a claim. Sometimes grief becomes a prison. Sometimes the dead do not mean harm at first, but their refusal to leave begins to bend everything around them. Nak wants her husband. She wants her child. She wants the house and the marriage and the future that's been stolen. She can remain where she should not remain. She can appear as she should not appear. She can keep Mac close inside a life that has become a lie. And outside that lie, the village waits for the moment when he will finally see what they have seen. The moment comes through something small. In many versions, Nak is preparing food when a line falls from the house down to the ground below. Traditional Thai houses were often raised, leaving space beneath the floor, so something dropped could fall out of reach from where she stood. For a living woman, retrieving it would mean climbing down. It would mean stepping away from the room, moving through the house, and going outside like anyone else. Nak does not do that. Instead, as Mac watches, her arm stretches down impossibly far, reaching from the raised floor to the ground below, as though the length and structure of a human body no longer mattered. It's such a simple image. No thunder or blood, no monstrous transformation, just a woman reaching too far. And that is all it takes for the truth to enter the room. Mac sees what his wife is. The woman he has been sleeping beside, speaking to, eating with, and loving since his return, is no longer alive. The child in the house is no longer alive. The home he thought he'd come back to is not a home restored, but a place held together by a ghost's refusal to let go. From that moment, the story changes. Mac is no longer the husband returning to his wife. He is a living man trapped with the dead. And Nak, who has waited for him with all the force of love, is about to discover that the man she crossed death to keep is afraid of her. Once Mac understands, he cannot simply leave in daylight. He has to escape. That is another detail that gives the legend its force, because it suggests that by the time the truth is revealed, Nak's love has become possession. She does not want Mac to stay. She needs him to stay. The life she's built around him after death depends on his belief, his presence, and his willingness to remain inside the illusion with her. So Mac waits. In some versions, he says nothing at first. He hides his fear. He pretends not to understand what he has seen, because to confront Nak openly would be too dangerous. When night comes, Mac slips away. Depending on the version, he sneaks from the house while Nak is distracted or sleeping, trying to move quietly enough that she will not notice until he has reached safety. The village is dark. A canal is nearby. The world outside the house should belong to the living, but by then, the whole of Phra Kanong seems to be under Nak's shadow, and Nak follows. This is where her grief becomes terrifying. The woman who waited patiently at the door now becomes the spirit who pursues. The love that seemed tender when Mac believed in it becomes unbearable once he tries to leave it. She does not understand or refuses to accept that the truth has changed everything. To Nak, he is still her husband. He still belongs with her. The villagers have interfered. The living have tried to separate what death itself could not separate. Mac runs for sacred ground. In many tellings, he flees to a temple, because Buddhist temple grounds are places of protection, and because a ghost like Nak cannot easily follow him there. Some versions include the detail that he hides behind a particular plant, associated in Thai folklore with protection from spirits. When Mac reaches the temple, Nak cannot take him back. The village has finally pulled him out of her world. And that is when her sorrow turns outward. In several versions, Nak begins to terrorize the people of Phra Kanong, furious that they warned Mac and helped him escape. The villagers have feared her before, but now their fear is justified. She is no longer only the ghost in the house, holding one husband in a false domestic life. She becomes a presence in the wider community, a spirit whose grief and anger spill beyond the walls where she died. Nak is frightening, but she is not empty evil. She has been left behind twice, first by war, then by death, and finally by the husband who runs from her. Her rage is monstrous, but it grows from a wound that the story never asks us to forget. She's not only something to fear, she's something to pity. She is a warning, but also a mother. Eventually, the fear around Nak grows too strong for the village. Someone has to intervene, not only for Mac, but for the community, now living under the weight of her presence. So the story moves from the house to the world of ritual. Monks, shamans, holy men, and spiritual authority enter the legend. And May Nak, the wife who would not release her husband, becomes a spirit that must be contained, calmed, or transformed. In some versions of the story, local people tried to deal with her spirit themselves, using charms and ritual or spiritual protection. In others, a shaman captured her in a clay jar and threw it into the canal, only for the jar to be found later, releasing her once again. But the best-known ending brings in a powerful Buddhist monk, often identified in later retellings as Somdet Phra Phutachan, who came to calm the restless spirit and finally separate Nak from the world she refused to leave. Even then, the story does not treat her like a simple monster to be destroyed. Nak is subdued, but she is also understood. The force that kept her near the house was not random evil, but attachment to her husband, to her baby, and to the doorway where she'd waited for a man who came home too late to save her life. This may be why May Nak never really disappeared from Thai memory. Today her shrine is associated with Wat Mahabut in Bangkok. People still visit with offerings, not only because they fear her, but because many believe she understands love, marriage, pregnancy, longing and desperate requests made from the edge of uncertainty. They bring flowers, dresses, toys for the child she lost. Some visitors ask for protection, some ask for luck, some because they are pregnant and want a safe birth, or because they believe that May Nak, who loved beyond death, may be sympathetic to those whose lives are also shaped by waiting. And in the memory of Phra Kanong, beside the canal, where love and death became so tangled that even generations later, people still come, bearing offerings and hope that the ghost wife will listen.
Summer's a gift. The gift of days that last a little longer. A brighter state of mind. So gift yourself a new Kia at the Kia Summer Sticker Sales Event. With specially tagged vehicles including the Sorento, Sportage, Carnival, as well as the Niro Hybrid. All backed by a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. So the gift of summer can keep on giving for summers to come. Kia, movement that inspires.
Call 800-333-4KIA for details. Always drive safely. Event ends 6/1/26. See dealer for warranty details.
Ever notice how life's best stories don't happen in your living room? They happen on the open road, out on the water, or parked under the stars. At Progressive, they get that you want to focus on the experience, not worry about the what-ifs. That's why they offer quality insurance designed for your ride, whether that's a boat, RV, or motorcycle. Adventure with confidence. Visit Progressive.com and see how easy it is to protect your favorite way to get away. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in D.C. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Tragic, isn't it?
Yeah,
Gave me-
it's a good story.
It is, and it gave me a little tear because it's got everything in there. It's got the longing, and then it's got the long arm going underneath the house. So lots of longs in there, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too. Hope you're all doing all right out there in this turbulent world we live in now.
Yeah.
It's all going on, it's all kicking off, it's all over the place. Just stick to the spooky stories and the ghosts and the things like that. That are actually less spooky,
Yeah.
I find.
Well, that's the end of this episode. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
We will indeed. We will catch you again tomorrow for the main episode. Take care, everyone.
Goodbye.
Morning people wake up for peace and quiet. McDonald's breakfast people, we wake up for the sweet rush of getting that warm, delicious breakfast right before it ends.
Hotcakes, sausage patty, hash browns, scrambled eggs, biscuit, real butter and syrup. You know how our big breakfast got its name, and you know where your whole family can share one for just $6. McDonald's. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Pacifico, the crisp Mexican lager that wasn't brewed to blend in. We were made for the moments when you live like you mean it. When you don't just hear the music, you feel it. When you let the bonfire burn into the night and find places you'd never spot on a map. So when the moment calls, choose to reach for the bright yellow can. Choose yellow. Choose Pacifico. 21 plus. Discover responsibly. Pacifico Clara Beer. Imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois.
From athletic stuff like a full court pickup game, swish, to athletic-ish stuff like a half-mile stroll. Get those steps in. Head to Sierra or Sierra.com for the brands you want at the prices that let you do it all. From athletic to athletic-ish, Sierra's got it.
The stories told on the Whispering Woods are inspired by historical records, witness reports, and local folklore. While every effort is made to research and represent events accurately, some details, names, and locations may differ from official accounts or have been changed out of respect for those involved. These episodes are created for storytelling and entertainment purposes and should not be considered definitive fact or investigative journalism.